How frustrated, how annoyed, how irritated should you get trying to explain your plan to your boss, to your peer, to your subordinate, to your wife, to your husband, to your kid? We can get into a scenario where the pushback that we're getting starts to get to a point where it's pushing us over. And that might scare some people. And I came up with a tool that I think is a very helpful tool that can help everybody. All right, is it my turn now?
It's your turn.
Okay, so similar. I'll try and give you a statement for that encompasses this a little bit. If you're not getting pushback, you're probably wrong. Well, you could be wrong on many different counts. If you're not getting pushback from your team, this is aligns very well with what we just talked about. So if I'm the CEO and I'm rolling in, I'm presenting my ideas, and I'm basically getting everyone that says that sounds great, then there's probably an issue with them offering up their ideas. There's probably an issue with the way that I speak to them. There's probably an issue with our relationships. So we want to have pushback. Now, that being said, we can get into a scenario where the pushback that we're getting starts to get to a point where it's pushing us over. And that might scare some people. Might really scare some people, because what's really going to hit the ground when your idea gets pushed over, the thing that's going to fall is your ego. So I was out at FTX, our field training exercise, and I came up with a tool that I think is a very helpful tool that can help everybody. It's a gauge. You know, you flew airplanes. You got various gauges, right? What gauges you got? Fuel gauge, yes. Altitude gauge. What else? Speed gauge, G gauge.
Yes, lots of gauges.
Lots of gauges.
Yeah.
So here's a gauge that I want you to put into your brain if you're out there listening to this. It's the explanation effort meter, the EEM. The EEM, the explanation effort meter, which means if you are trying to convince, or you're trying to persuade, or you're trying to prove a point to someone on your team, up or down the chain of command, pay attention to the amount of effort that you are putting into your explanation. Check the EEM, check the explanation effort meter, because look, there is a chance that the person you are trying to convince is just a block-headed, half-witted, smooth-brained idiot.
Or some other word for
or
idiot.
some other word for idiot. There's a chance, right? There's a chance that you've gone out and you've hired, and this person has gone through the schooling that they've gone through, and they've been promoted to the position that they've done all that, but they're still got a smooth, their brain is smooth as a bowling ball, right? That's possible. It's possible that they just don't have the cognitive capacity to see the brilliance of your ideas. Or there's a chance that if it takes so much effort for you to explain something to someone, there's a chance that you might be wrong. And I know it's highly unlikely, but you just might be wrong about something. So as you are trying to explain to them over and over and over again, instead, once that meter goes into the red, why don't you stop talking and start listening? Stop talking and start listening. I said on an early podcast that I have a limit for beating my head against the wall. It's 47 times. So if I bang my head against the wall 47 times, you don't go 48. 47 is the max. Like, you're trying to get something done. You're trying to beat your head against the wall. You're trying to convince somebody. Don't go 48 times. Keep it at 47. This is the same thing. Like, how frustrated, how annoyed, how irritated should you get trying to explain your brilliant plan to your boss, to your peer, to your subordinate, to your wife, to your husband, to your kid? You actually shouldn't get that frustrated. The EEM alarm should go off well before you lose your mind, well before you lose your temper, well before you've wasted an epic amount of leadership capital. You should stop. Because if I have a freaking brilliant idea, Dave, on how to do something, and I can't convey it to you in a rational amount of time, with a rational amount of words, without acting irrationally, there's a problem most likely with my idea. Sure, like I said, there's a chance that you're some undercover agent from another company. or you have some alignment with evil that you're trying to carry out. That is possible. Right? It's possible that you actually are getting paid by a competitor and you're trying to bring my company down, right? That's possible, right? It is possible. But chances are 99.99999% that you actually see something that I don't see, or you understanding something that I don't understand, or my idea doesn't make sense for any multitude of reasons. So, by the way, this doesn't only apply to you and I in business or someone in business. This applies to like having a conversation with another human being. And this is very prevalent in this day and age, right? When you get into a vigorous debate, here's a good little catchword for you. This will help you out. If you get into a vigorous debate, I recommend vigorous listening. I actually recommend you listen to what the other person is saying. And then I recommend you ask earnest questions once you understand what they're saying. I recommend that your default mode, here's another default setting. My default setting, you and I are arguing about something. My default setting is where you right and I'm wrong. That's my default setting. Not where am I wrong, right, and you're wrong. That's not what I'm looking to prove. I actually want to know where the common ground is. That's what I want to have. I want to find that. I recently had a client, senior position, was complaining that they're running a project and they were complaining about and this is just classic. You know, it's really hard when you're leading a bunch of chiefs. Too many chiefs, not enough Indians, right? Everyone's got their own ideas. Notice my frustration. You could actually, I got some quotes written down here like, they want to run things themselves. They think they're in charge, right? So if I say it with that voice, it's totally negative. If I say that, man, everyone has their own ideas. Like, we've got a bunch of people on the team that have ideas about stuff. I'm overjoyed. Or everybody wants to run things. Is that exactly what we want? We literally say when we talk about decentralized command, it means everybody leads. That's what we want. And now we're complaining that everybody wants to run things. If I got people on my team, they want to run things, I am jumping for joy. That's my goal. They thought they were in charge. No. Oh, they all think they're in charge. Yes. Praise be to the gods of business. Because now I've got a bunch of people that actually want to be in charge. And they push back on everything. Good. You know, in About Face, that's one of the things that Colonel Hackworth said about the draftees. Everyone hated the draftees. No, actually, no, everyone didn't hate the draftees. What did he like about the draftees? He liked about the draftees, they pushed back. They called out his dumb ideas. Because they weren't getting promoted. They didn't care if they were getting out of the Army in, you know, whatever it was, 214 more days or 172 more days or 19 more days. They didn't give a shit about the Army. So when he was coming up with a dumb plan, they're like, hey, Colonel, that's a dumb plan. We shouldn't do that. And he's like, okay, thank you. He didn't say shut up and do what I told you. He said, oh, these guys might have a point. So I want my people to push back. That's actually what I'm looking forward to. That's why when I started this thing off, I'm like, if you're not getting any pushback, you're wrong. So I want people to push back. I want them to come up with ideas and run with them, and I want them to take charge. That's exactly what I want. And if you're in a situation where people don't, and here's another piece of corporate jargon or leadership jargon, if people don't get on board, no matter how hard you explain things, like I said, there's a chance that every person on your team is a cotton-headed ninny-muggin, right? There's a chance of that. Reference Elf, thank you. There's a chance that everyone is smooth-brained and they don't understand because they're all stupid. You have a whole team of people that do this for a living, that make money, that were educated in whatever subject this is, but they all don't get it. When that happens, when people aren't on board, I recommend you check your explanation effort meter, because it's probably pinned in the red. And your plan isn't as good as you think it is, and you aren't explaining it clearly, and you're not listening to what they say. So take a step back and listen to what they have to say. And that is my recommendation, and I think it will make your life much easier. There's a direct correlation to jiu-jitsu where you're trying to get this move on someone, and you have to work so hard. You have to use so much strength and power to make it work. You're not doing it right. When you're sweeping, a good thing that I do, other instructors do it too, but like, let's say I'm sweeping you, which is a movement that takes, let's say, 2.5 to 3 seconds. And I'll talk while I'm doing it. I'll say, okay, as you can see right now, I'm doing the sweep. Dave is falling over, and yet my voice is not moving. I'm not straining. And now you're on your back. As opposed to like, okay, now watch me do this. There you go. It worked, right? I had to use all this strength. I'm doing it wrong. I'm missing something. That's the same. That's the effort meter is pegged, which means you're not doing the work. It means it's not going to work against a stronger person for sure. And that's what we're doing. We're trying to force our ideas down people's throat. If your ideas are good, they shouldn't really need to get forced.
Yeah.
So there you go. Right. If you guys want to dig deeper into this stuff, you can join Dave, me, Leif, JP. We got a whole team of people. This is what we do. Extreme Ownership Academy, extremeownership.com. If you got questions you will come on there and ask. We just put up some free courses. Our mission at Echelon Front is to teach these lessons to as many people as we can. And so we just put up a couple free courses, extremeownership.com. Well, the first course it's you and I did the first course, the framework of extreme ownership. And it's pretty pragmatic. Hey, how do I take ownership in tough situations? Literally, what words do I say? How do I set this up? So we go through that. And then Jamie and I did a course which is called The Barriers to Extreme Ownership, which there's a lot. That's why a lot of people have a hard time with it. A lot of people have a hard time taking ownership, and they can't overcome those barriers. And therefore, if you can't take extreme ownership of what's going on in your world, you're not going to improve anything, because it's not your fault. It's someone else's fault. It's the market's fault. It's the weather's fault. It's your employee's fault. It's your boss's fault. It's your wife's fault. It's your husband's fault. It's your kid's fault. It's everyone else's fault but yours. So there's nothing you can do different. No, not the way it works. Overcome those barriers. Go check out this course, Barriers to Extreme Ownership, extremeownership.com. And then we have a bunch of other courses on there. So we'll get an assessment too that you can take. Anyways, go to check it out, extremeownership.com. If you want leadership guidance inside your organization, come check out our leadership consultancy, echelonfront.com. And thanks for listening to The Debrief. Now go lead.